Hey, what's up guys, and welcome to Xbox On, and it is the 1 year anniversary of backwards compatibility coming to the Xbox One.
It's weird that it's a year, it feels like it's been so much longer.
Yeah.
So it's got us thinking about the best backwards compat games of all time, so here they are.
If the idea of leaping around in zero gravity, running around walls, using jetpacks doesn't feel like the classic Call of Duty you want to play, well then you have to give World at War a go. Where Modern Warfare reinvented the series in 2007, World at War followed a year later to show that historic combat could still be every bit as intense without 21st century tech. The addition of flamethrowers made for terrifying encounters as giant fireballs engulfed the screen. It was good fun if you could grab one yourself, though not so great when they were poured onto you. You could also trundle around in tanks. Who needs wall running and double jumps in multiplayer when you've got a freaking tank? Speaking of multiplayer, it's still a huge reason to hop on and get that classic Call of Duty feel. Okay, so the servers are home to some pretty rancid cheating. I don't remember the ability to fly back in 2008, but it's still got some killer maps and weapons, like one of my favorites of all time, the MP44, which I still think is one of the best guns in Call of Duty. Just kind of racking up tons of kills with a submachine gun was so much fun. And who could forget the attack dog you'd get for a 7-kill streak? Unleashing these hounds of hell, or furry minions of doom as I like to call them, would see the map swarm with angry dogs, and again, like the flamethrower, hilarious when you're setting them on other people, but not so much fun when they decide that your throat is their lunch. Outside of World at War multiplayer, which is still one of my favorite games to play, it still has a load of other features, including zombies. You can play the whole campaign in co-op, for example, either with 4 friends online or in 2-player split-screen co-op. As Gears of War teaches us, war is always more fun from a sofa with a friend. Then there was the first appearance of zombie mode. Okay, so this simple bunker is way more basic than the huge worlds the mode is set in today, but it still nails that tension of fighting off an encroaching horde and gambling on whether to empty your earnings into a cheap weapon or trying to save up your blood money for something from the mystery box. If anything, it's a great place to learn the basics before throwing yourself into the more developed version in Infinite Warfare. It may not be shiny and new like Infinite Warfare, but World at War still has an absolute ton to offer, and you should definitely hop on and play.
I was over the moon when Bayonetta joined the back compat gang. She's probably my second favourite netta, just after Bayonetta. There's just so much to master here. Director Hideki Kamiya and his team at Platinum Games do not just build combat systems. They ask you to rewire your fingers to a whole new rhythm and learn to copy the kind of visual madness you only see at a fireworks display after several bottles of Panda Pops. You play Bayonetta, a witch with a lust for angel slaying and a disregard for clothes. Her slinky catsuit is woven out of her own hair. That is no easy feat. I tried the clothes made out of hair thing once, but I could only stretch as far as a mitten. Bayonetta is designed for death, a gun in each hand, another 2 strapped to her heels, and the ability to weave her hair into demonic apparitions. At the expense of her outfit, naturally. It's a system so stuffed with combo potential that even the loading screen gets in on the action. The really cool bit is the power to enter witch time. Dodging attacks at the last moment puts everything into slow motion where you can deal out a rapid beatdown. It's like Neo in The Matrix, although I'm pretty sure his coat wasn't woven out of Keanu's back hair. The challenge with a heroine as powerful as this is how can you possibly find a threat big enough to take her on? The answer? Build bosses the size of small countries. I mean, where do you even start with something like this? The snapping dragon arms, the giant stone baby face? The thing's so darn hefty that it cracks the earth right down to the magma below. When you finally get round to dropping a quick time event on it, you're unleashing gigatons of damage. And this is just the first boss. By the end of the game, you're fighting God herself and delivering punches with the power of the Big Bang. There's just too much nuttiness here to let it gather dust on the pre-owned shelves. Go get it downloaded on your Xbox One now.
Now, unless things take a very weird, strange turn, I doubt we're gonna see Mario Kart on Xbox One anytime soon, but thanks to Back Compat, we have the next best thing. Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed is a cartoon karting game that borrows a few tricks from Nintendo's Plumber, but by digging into Sega's own arcade heritage, it finds its own spin on tarmac shredding. As in the mighty Outrun, cars are at their happiest when you slam into a drift and coast around corners at 90-degree angles. How the hell the tires survive this, I'll never know, but I guess they're made from the same rubber as Sonic's shoes. But as good as the karting is, it's only 1/3 of what makes Racing Transformed such a fun game to play. As the name suggests, the cars morph on the fly, asking you to master multiple vehicles and racing styles as you tear around the tracks. Hit the water and they become boats, requiring you to steer past aggressive waves or try and launch yourself off them for a stunt. It also lets developers sumo tap into some fun area of Sega history, such as slowly flooding track based on firefighter action game Burning Rangers. And if you want to have a change from the blue water to the blue skies, you can also morph into a plane. Taking to the air allows for some of Racing Transformed's most epic tracks, as huge chunks of the level would crumble away, leaving you to fly over the finish line. Each of the 3 vehicle types handles so differently that you really have to master all 3 to best the game, especially if you want to race your way through the career mode, which threw in colourful challenges alongside normal races. But obviously what it's all about is getting on the sofa with 3 of your friends and seeing that close friendship turn into hate. Okay, so split-screen multiplayer is too happy a place to cause proper fury, but the mix of last-minute twists, whether it's a projectile up your tailpipe or an incredible drift that propels you into first place, will have you giving each other dead arms and turning the air Sega blue. But as one of the rare family multiplayer games available on Xbox 360, it's definitely worth a look.
As a lover of JRPGs, it was hard to pick a favourite on Xbox 360. There were games with nonsensical names like Infinite Undiscovery or Unfinite Indiscovery or one of those two, but there was also the one where you played as famed composer Chopin as he slowly dies of tuberculosis. That was jolly. Or maybe you just went for the biggie, Final Fantasy 13, aka Corridor Simulator 2010. As much as I love walking from A to B for hundreds of hours, my JRPG of choice was Lost Odyssey. In many ways, Lost Odyssey was a Final Fantasy game in all but name. It was created by Final Fantasy inventor Hironobu Sakaguchi, featured music by Final Fantasy's maestro Nobu Uematsu, and relied on a very familiar turn-based combat system. And look at how the haircuts challenge the laws of gravity. If that doesn't set off your Final Fantasy similarity alert bells, then how about this? Kaim, the game's hero, is, you guessed it, an amnesiac. The amnesiac hero is an idea so cliched that Kaim himself would be the first to say, oh man, I can't believe we're... yeah, what are we doing again? That said, JRPGs have always traded on familiarity. There's something so heartening about the sight of 2 lines of enemies politely lining up and waiting to bash numbers out of each other's skulls, especially with so many directors now looking for real-time action in their games, as in Final Fantasy 15. And Lost Odyssey has one great trick up its wafty warrior's sleeve. Kaim's backstory is told as a series of short stories. And we're not talking flashback cutscenes, we're talking actual reading. You know, the thing where you look at the letters with your eyes. Remember that? Either way, they're beautiful nuggets of pure poetry that really elevate the storytelling. And if that's too highbrow for you, you Philistine, then playing on Xbox One also means you don't have to swap between the game's 4 discs. If that doesn't entice you, nothing will.
Ever since Microsoft launched Back Compat a year ago, Skate 3 has been on top of everyone's wish list on the user-generated poll, and now they finally have their wish. Skate 3 continues the fine work of EA's previous skateboard sims, transplanting Skate's more realistic brand of skateboard physics into the open world of Port Caverton. In a move that reminds us of Forza Horizon 3, you play as the head of a skateboard company, competing in challenges to improve your cred and hopefully sell loads of skateboards.
I saw that photo you shot with Burnett. It looks sick.
But if the idea of playing as some corporate fat cat puts you off, don't worry, the game is pretty much just all about wiping out. Horribly. Much of Skate's popularity comes down to its clownish physics that turn even minor stumbles into face-grazing nightmares. If you've ever wanted to watch a virtual doofus repeatedly smash his face on the curb or go tumbling down some stairs, it feels like an insult to EA's finely tuned skating controls, but a quick Google search tells me that violence is probably why this is so high on the wish list, so here's a 20-second pain montage to some comedy music. But if you really want to double down on the hurt, you can activate the Hall of Meat mode, where you earn score by doing as much damage to your body as humanly possible. It all looks incredibly painful. You can watch the individual bones shattering in your body. It's the kind of bodily damage you don't normally see outside of Mortal Kombat. No wonder you're having to sell all those skateboards. Your medical bills must be through the roof. Throw in a map editor and online game modes, and Skate 3 is definitely worth a play.
With this next entry, I'm gonna have to cheat a little bit, as it's technically 5 games in one, the Orange Box.
Not to come over too Forrest Gump, but Valve's 5-game compilation is like a box of digital chocolates. 5 unique treats you can pick at will. Only, unlike the chalky selection your mum normally buys at Christmas, here the orange ones are everyone's favourite. At the heart of it is the mighty Half-Life 2, a tale of oppression, rebellion, and the odd bit of enforced recycling. Of course, it's best remembered for the gravity gun and the option to throw paint cans at zombie things in what is the most violent episode of Changing Rooms ever filmed.
Wow, I really love what you've done with the place. The zombie brains really emphasize the room's flow.
Half-Life 2 is complemented by 2 episodic follow-ups. Episode 1 builds on the character relationships, rewriting Alex's AI to be far more emotive and responsive. Though, compared to Gordon Freeman, the human equivalent of a plank, this isn't that difficult. And their double act continues in episode 2, where they also get to bomb around the infested countryside in a makeshift buggy, escape the terrifying hunter mechs, and challenge a giant mechanical dog to a race.
Just because Earth is going to hell, it doesn't mean there's no time for robotic animal humiliation.
The Orange Box is topped off with a cartoony team shooter, Team Fortress 2, and the oops, there goes my lunch, stomach-flipping puzzles of Portal. Alone, these 2 games could justify a purchase. The former's a hectic blur of backstabbing spies and lumbering Russian mercenaries, with a community that still murders each other to this day. Portal is, well, Portal. If you've managed to avoid its twists and surprises in the last 8 years, there really is no excuse not to dive in now.
These games are so good that it makes us sad that Valve don't really make games anymore. I mean, hey, if we invented Steam, we'd enjoy just sitting around on our pile of money as well. But maybe a few of those pennies could go towards making Half-Life 3, please?
Well, surprise, surprise, if it isn't Red Dead Redemption featuring in another one of our lists, you would think Rockstar have our loved ones tied to a railway track somewhere.
If they did, it would probably be Karma, based on how much time we've pumped into tormenting the good folk of the virtual West. We've hogtied nuns and left them on the railway tracks. We've shot our own horse in the head when going at full speed just to see what would happen. We've climbed onto the roof of the Armadillo Saloon and started more shootouts than we can remember, just because it's tricky for anyone to climb up there. John Marston may be trying to go straight. We didn't get the memo.
And that's what's amazing about Red Dead Redemption. Even though that is set in far simpler times compared to Grand Theft Auto, for example, you'll still find as many ways to kill the time.
Lots of it reminds us of the whole new Westworld show. Red Dead is a cowboy fantasy where you can be as good or as bad as you like. If you want to gallop across the plains waiting for random rescue missions to break out, yeah, then that's fine, you can do that. Boring, but it's fine. But if you're a meaner type of person, you could opt to rob the train, riding up alongside the engine, popping some shots off at the driver, and then picking off the passengers as they flee. It's the kind of terrible behavior that would have Clint Eastwood on your trail in a movie. Here you just have to wait a few minutes and then you can start the whole crime afresh. It's brilliant.
I'm not a psychopath. Honestly, I'm just a really dedicated role player.
And of course, when you finally get tired of Ruthless Chaos, though we don't really ever see that happening, you have the killer story campaign to dip into. It's one of Rockstar's best ever stories, taking a simple tale of reluctant revenge straight out of The Unforgiven, throwing in a hefty dose of the good, the bad, and the ugly's epic adventure, and then dotting the story with the freaks and perverts that Rockstar are so good at writing. These are the monsters who truly deserve tying to the railway tracks. Maybe that'll be an option in Red Dead Redemption 2.
The wait for Red Dead Redemption 2 will be long and hard, but Red Dead Redemption 1 will keep us occupied until then.
Mass Effect 2 is both the best and worst poster child for the idea of backwards compatibility.
On one hand, it's backwards compatible in that it uses save files to import your hero or heroine in from the first game, again forcing all the sexy supporting characters to get off with your potato face monstrosity. But on the other, it also welcomes you into the game by destroying everything you fought for in the first game. As you watch the Normandy get blown apart and your crew tumble into space, the writers are basically shaking the Etch-a-Sketch and giving themselves a blank page to start work on.
It also proves that old classic Alien saying, "In space, no one can hear you say, 'Oh God, there's a huge hole in my spaceship.'"
Amidst the chaos, Shepard him or herself dies in action, only to be rebuilt by the elusive man, both the head of the shady Cerberus organization and the owner of the most ridiculous office in the galaxy. I mean, look at it. All that space and only one chair and a glass of ambiguous space drink? What happens if he needs to photocopy something? Where's his elusive desk? As much as we'd like to spend 30 hours investigating the elusive man's dislike of IKEA, we've more important things to do, like trying to work out who is kidnapping entire colonies from across the galaxy, or embracing the revamped combat with its Titan's cover shooting and more immediate control over our force powers. Sorry, biotic powers. Please don't let George Lucas's lawyers get involved.
This made it a better game than Mass Effect 1, but it's the characters that made me love it.
Old faves like Garrus and Tali pop up in unexpected places, and they're joined by some of BioWare's strongest creations. Are you going to buddy up with Cerberus Stooge, Miranda, or cold-blooded killer Thane? You can only really choose one of them for your squad, as the third person is obviously taken by Mordin Solus, aka the Mad Scientist. If you don't like Mordin, then you deserve to die in that explosion at the start.
Building your team of heroes as you chased an unknown enemy across the universe was one of the greatest adventures on Xbox 360. If you haven't played it yet, you might as well eject your console out of the airlock.
So there we have it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to let us know what your favorite games available and backwards compatibility are in the comments below. Also hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any more content.
And don't forget to smash that like button if you enjoyed this video, and check out another one of our list shows. We'll be back tomorrow at 6 PM for brand new content. Bye.